This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
Just focusing on the defense, and part of that is also breaking out. I think we played more in the offensive zone today than last game, and it was very important for our group to show a reaction, especially when you get scored on 8. You want to make sure that's a one-off and show a good reaction the next game, and I think we did that today.
Once we got one, we wanted to manage their speed. They're a good fast team, and they've been rolling, and they've been winning games. So I thought we had a good defensive effort, and kind of managed that, and we're hard in our zone, and just kind of played in their end.
I mentioned this. By the way, good afternoon, everybody. It is Power Lunch on Lightning Radio. My partner Dave Mishkin on the other side.
Live Power Lunch today.
Live. Big moment for you. And I was excited for you that we saw that on the big screen, the Jumbotron.
Yeah.
The Lightning did a nice job. John Franzone always.
Thank you, John.
Assuming, he puts that together, and you were honored for 2,000 games, and that is an unbelievable feat. We're going to have more of our fans here checking in and weighing in on that. I don't want to overanalyze it too much, but we will. We break it down.
We have an hour to fill.
I said on the last call yesterday, it was basically, look, I think Andrei Vasilevskiy was just the difference in the game. I mean, I didn't. We'll get into why. We'll get into how things transpired. I didn't think the Lightning played particularly well. However, I think Utah had something to do about it, partner. And I'm comfortable giving them some credit. If you want to say first game back after a road trip, sometimes the legs feel a little wobbly. Maybe mentally you're not as sharp. I think that's all fair. But I also think the reason you're in some of those moments is because the other team they're doing some things to get you out of sorts. And I was impressed with Utah. I don't know if they're a playoff team. I don't know if they come out of the West. Certainly they're getting goaltending this year. That's been a big, big story. I like their team. They compete hard. Yeah. And I think they had a big, big reason why Tampa Bay was so reliant maybe on Vasi to bail them out. I mean, the Keller breakaway we can get into in the third period. But I thought that was a goaltender steal and some other things mixed in. But Vasi was a big part of why the Lightning were able to get an important 2 points, gets another shutout, and continues, I think, to make this case that, Vezina, where are we? Let's go. He's in that conversation.
He's got to be one of the front runners, if not the front runner. I mean, his numbers are the best or some of the best. I mean, he's behind Vejmelka in wins, but his goals against is like a fraction over, well, it's of course a fraction, barely over 2, right? Yeah. I mean, the Lightning had that stretch of 8 straight games of allowing 2 or less come to an end on Saturday, but Vasilevskiy wasn't in the net for that game, so he still has his own personal streak. I think that this was a tale of 2 games. We heard a little bit of that from Coop post-game, but it wasn't like, the first half was black and the second half was white. I mean, it wasn't it wasn't like 2 totally different games. But the second half of the game was different than the first half of the game. And the first half of the game, to me, it was the Vasilevskiy story.
Right.
Because Utah could have been up in that game. Now, Vejmelka did make some saves as well in the first half of the game. I would say his tougher saves came in the first period. But he was not asked to make as difficult or as many saves as Vasilevskiy made in the first 30 minutes. And why was that? Well, as we have said often on the show, Greg, when you have 2 teams playing each other, no team plays in a vacuum. So you have one team putting in what they're putting in, and then you have the other team putting in what they are putting in. So I said on the show yesterday, I felt that this was going to be a tough game. And I felt it was going to be a tough game for a number of reasons, one of which was the schedule played out in a way that the Lightning had their third game in 4 nights. They had the late arrival from Columbus. It was a tough weekend back-to-back. And the homestand was starting, but it wasn't really starting until Thursday. You can go back and listen to the show yesterday. I said that before we even saw a second of action in the game last night. At the same time, Utah had a much more favorable schedule. The Mammoth played Saturday afternoon in Nashville, and of course Nashville got a horrible ice storm as part of this winter storm that rolled through much of the United States. But Utah got out of Nashville before that arrived. So they were safely ensconced in Tampa by, early Saturday evening or whatever. And they were just like getting ready for Monday's game. So they were going to be the fresher team. They were. That's just a fact, okay? The second part is Utah was playing with a lot of swagger. 8-0-1 in the previous 9, talked about their metrics, how well they had been playing. And we saw all of that in evidence in the first period. So what happened in the first period? The Mammoth passed the puck so well that they were able to use their speed at high octane levels. It's like, back when we had manual shifts, which is how I learned to drive. I don't know if you learned to drive that way, Greg, but like you can't start in fifth gear. You can't. Like you have to go from first to second to third. So like now we have the automatic that does it for you, but Utah was able to get from first to fifth pretty quickly, but they got from first to fifth because it was like pass, pass, pass. Like they executed so well, tape to tape, like hitting guys in stride so they can accelerate. The pace of play got accelerated. Right. And they attacked the Lightning's defensive zone with speed and created chances. They were also making plays quickly and effectively. There was that one play where Yamamoto was denied in the slot. What a pass from Nick Schmaltz. He's on the sideboards. Lightning are trying to get to him. He brings it in. There's a guy who closes on him. He turns away from the check, opens himself up so he has his forehand available, and wires it perfectly right on Yamamoto's stick. Yamamoto is a point-blank grade A. Vasilevskiy makes the save. I mean, we were seeing that. Not all as dangerous as Yamamoto, but we were seeing chances like that. This Dylan Guenther, he is going. I mean, we haven't seen him play a lot.
Yeah.
There is no mystery as to why he has 24 goals this year. This guy is a player. He can zing the puck. He hit the post like 15 seconds left in the first period. Off the rush again. It was right after the Lightning had a power play. So to me, the story in the first period especially was Vasilevskiy to keep Utah at 0. Then we get into the second period, and the Lightning have backed. Actually, the Lightning started okay at the beginning of the second period, but then they had back-to-back penalties. And Utah's power play has been maligned this year. I think they came in tied for 28th in the NHL. That power play looked pretty good in the second period. They had the back-to-back chances. They had 5 shots during the 2 chances. They had other attempts. Guenther barely missed an open net where he had a tough angle, but he could have put it in. It missed. There was a scramble play. The Lightning survived the kills, and we passed the halfway point. It's still 0-0, and you're like, are they just going to like have to rope-a-dope this thing? And then we had the key sequence where Utah takes back-to-back penalties. And it was on the second of those power plays the Lightning scored. It helped them get their game in gear. We're starting to see from this Lightning power play, because Radish has scored now 2 goals in consecutive games on the power play from basically the same spot. He's shifting from the middle of the ice to the left side of the ice, which is, first of all, it's a slightly less advantageous angle. Like the best angle is the middle of the ice, right? You have the whole net in front of you. Once you move to the side, you have less of the net to shoot at, depending on how far you're going. So why would he do that? Well, he's a righty shot on the left side of the ice, so his angle is better than if he were a lefty on the left side of the ice. But the reason you do that is the goalie has to move, right? That's why, we hear Brian sometimes talking about this. Phil talks about this a lot. Like, why are you passing out of the middle of the ice to the side? Lightning like doing that. You're in the middle of the ice. You have the best angle to shoot. Why are you not shooting? Why are you passing to the side? The reason you pass to the side, you get the goalie moving, right? Harder for a goalie to make a save while the goalie is moving as opposed to being set, okay? So Vasilevskiy has to shift as Kuch peels to the middle, sets up Radish. Goalie is moving. Radish drills it. 92-mile-an-hour slap shot. Vasilevskiy catches with the right hand. So it's the opposite side for most goalies. But, he was good with the glove. He made some glove saves last night. Radish just beat him up high. If Vasilevskiy is set, maybe he makes that save. Who knows? So the other part of it was Utah is like recognizing Darren Radish is a weapon. we need to worry about Darren Radish, because we were seeing in the earlier power play, they were challenging him a little bit when he was in the middle of the ice. They were coming out, which actually opened things up down low for Gensel. We'll see if other teams decide to pursue that as well. Pick your poison, right? That's the beauty of a power play that can hurt you at a variety of different spots of the ice and in a variety of ways. They want to pressure Radish up high. That might open things up in the bumper, or down low for a Gensel type play. Anyway, that was a huge goal for the Lightning because it gave them the lead. So they get through the rest of the second period. What's going to happen in the third? I thought Utah came out with guns a-blazing in the first probably 5 minutes of the third period, and they were using their speed, and it was like the Lightning were like trying to grab the game back, and then they did it. They just did it. 5 minutes in to the end of the game, Utah was far less dangerous. 5 minutes into the third period, I'm talking about. Gord's line did what they do, but it wasn't just them. Like Hagel, Cirelli, and Kucherov, they had long ozone shifts. I thought Gonsalves, James, and Gensel had a very solid game. It wasn't a game where anyone scored 5-on-5, but I thought that they did a really nice job, moving pucks in the offensive zone and forcing Utah to play defense. So what happened after the first 5 minutes of the third period? There were really three big plays. The first of those was Clayton Keller gets a breakaway. So this is a play. The Lightning made a mistake. They had both their defensemen up in the play. It was Crozier and Moser. We can talk about how they work the D. But they had a chance to score. Crozier and Moser are up in the play with Girgensons, and Girgensons has a chance. He misses the net. That means Gord and Holmberg are the two guys back in the neutral zone.
And
Utah reversed it quickly.
Right, and they kind of...
But I mean, they're forwards. They're not.
Right.
I think that's more on the defense. Like, you got to make sure that both guys going up when you're up 1-0 in the third period, they need to send Vasilevskiy. Thank you, Card, on that one. That was a huge mistake. And arguably, I mean, Gunther can really rip it, but Clayton Keller maybe is their most skilled forward. So the last guy you want to see coming in on a breakaway, and Vasilevskiy's just like, yep, got it. I mean, just made the save halfway through the third. So that was big play number one. Big play number two, Girgensons takes a penalty with about 6 minutes left. Remember those two power plays Utah had in the second period? They were dangerous. They were dangerous on those power plays. Lightning didn't give them a sniff on that third period power play. Phil and I were talking about it afterward. He's like, yeah, they had some looks. I'm like, did they really have looks? Like, they had some zone time. They had not one shot attempt during that power play. So that was big play number two. The Lightning got through that. So now you're at about 4 minutes left, still up 1-0. And then Lawson Krause takes just an inexcusably boneheaded penalty. In the offensive zone, your team's down by one. There's 2.5 minutes left, and he got a roughing minor. I mean, it basically torpedoed any hope Utah had of coming back in the game, because in the Lightning were going on a 2-minute power play with, 2:35 left, something like that?
Yeah.
2:31 left. He got the penalty. So it was a double whammy, because not only did they score in the power play, they scored with 15 seconds left in the power play. So they made it 2-0 with less than a minute left. That penalty by Krause was a huge, huge penalty. Now, Phil felt there should have been an earlier penalty. Carcone, I think it was Carcone, got the stick up on Crozier. They didn't call that shortly before. That was a little bit reckless. I think Carcone's trying to make a play. I mean, you need to be in control of your stick. But the Krause one was totally take a roughing minor 200 feet from your net when you're down one late in the third. That is a tough penalty to take. So the Lightning were like, thank you very much. And a couple of big faceoff wins by Cirelli during that power play, including the one with 22 seconds left in the power play. And, a few seconds later, he scores the goal. Originally, we thought Hagel guided it in, but it was Cirelli's goal. Hagel's been a little unlucky. He thought he scored. They said, no, Cirelli put it in. Last home game. This home game, Hagel thought he scored. He's like, no. It actually went in before you touched it. So Hagel didn't get either goal, but he's fine with it. So Cirelli got the goal, 2-0, and that was all she wrote. So to me, the Lightning played a lot better in the second half in terms of just dealing with what Utah was throwing at Tampa Bay than in the first half. But even in the second half, you needed some big saves from Vasilevskiy, notably that stop on Keller, which was probably their most dangerous chance. I mean, they had some other looks, but you're giving one of their most skilled players a breakaway from the red line in, basically, in a 1-0 game. That was the save of the game right there.
It's not how many, it's when. And a lot of times when we talk about saves and the power play, I think you had mentioned this too, the winning some faceoffs towards the end there was a big deal.
They lost the first one. It was a 50-50. They gave the faceoff win to Utah, but whoever tried to clear it for Utah had hit a stick and went out of play. So it was like a nothing faceoff. They got another crack at it, and then Cirelli won that one, and they held it in. That's a big deal. Yeah, I mean, even if they didn't hold it in, it went down the ice, but there was no pressure. Like, Utah needed to get the puck down the ice with possession somehow, pull the goalie for 5-on-5, and that never materialized.
Yep, for sure. I think they showed a stat on the screen that the most 90-plus mile-per-hour shots in the NHL.
For goals, I think.
Was it for goal? I don't know if it was for goals.
Shots?
I think it's just in general. And Radish is at like 65.
Oh, okay. Then I saw a different stat. I saw one for goals that went in over 90.
No, and then the second one is Bouchard from Edmonton. He's like in the 40s. So, I mean, that's impressive. And the point Brian was making on the show is that you may not notice it, but Kucherov oftentimes is putting that puck in the sweet spot. Radish isn't having to lunge or pull it back. It's right there where he can just tee it up for those 90-plus mile-per-hour shots.
And do you remember last year when they were experimenting with players in the Stamkos spot, we'll call it? They tried Radish there.
They did.
This is different.
They did.
Radish is not like positioned at the circle, having to handle a longer, harder pass on a one-timer.
Sure.
He's taking a shorter pass. Even the one, last night, the one that he scored in Columbus, it's a shorter pass. It's a softer pass. But as you just mentioned, it's right in his wheelhouse.
It's subtle, but it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And he's been able to allow his teammates to have a good shooting motion from that perspective. I thought it was an off night for the Lightning star players. I thought Hagel looked a little off. I think Kuch was even off. I mean, look, how many points did Kuch finish with?
2.
Right, he had 2. I mean, look, remember, it goes back to...
Because Hagel didn't touch the puck. If he touched the puck, it would have been a 1-assist night for Kuch.
But it just, they looked out of sorts. The best players looked out of sorts.
I think that a lot of that has to do with what I just talked about,
It did. And look, I think...
Brian was telling me, you were so lucky you were not on this road trip.
Yeah.
It was so cold. He's like, I have not been that cold. He was talking about in Chicago, Brian Engblom.
He wore his one jacket that he whips out every once in a while.
He said, I went for a walk. I just turned around and went right back inside. He's like, I haven't been that cold in 50 years. I don't know if that's accurate. And I laughed and I said, your 10-year-old self growing up in Winnipeg would be laughing at you. And then they had the blizzard basically come into Columbus. And it was a tough travel. Now, Brian and Dave Randorf are not playing on the ice. They're just calling the game. But, I get it. It's understandable that you're asking these athletes to perform at, peak levels against a team that is really rolling. Utah was on it. That was a tough assignment. I expect that they'll look more like themselves after they get reacclimated here for a couple of days with Winnipeg coming in on Thursday.
I get it, and I think.
But your comment is fair, Greg. I don't disagree with it.
Yeah, I just the team obviously who they're playing had something to do with it.
Right,
but it just was noticeable for me that Kucherov, Hagel, and mainly those two guys. Although you can, if you want to get in other people, you can, other players. They just looked a little bit off. Gensel had, some glorious scoring opportunities as well. I mean,
broken stick.
Yeah,
on one.
they just were a little off,
Yeah.
and that happens. And I think the fact that they got 2 points, that needs to be talked about a little bit more because we keep talking about this schedule and we keep talking about where things are in the standings, and the Lightning just continue to hold court partner. I mean, they really do.
They are through now. I will say they are through this brutal stretch.
Yeah.
This brutal stretch is over. If they end up losing games here moving forward, they'll be losing games because they lost games. It won't be due to scheduling. Now, coming out of the Olympic break, there's another challenging one. It's not, 6 weeks, but, they're going to have whatever it was, 9 of 14 on the road to come out of the Olympic break. But they have put themselves in terrific position just keep munching points. I mean, they're at 70 points now, right? So 2 away from playoff pace. They have 9 games to do it. Now, you just want to keep getting those bonus points, right? So you're right. Like, how many of these games going back, like, let's just say since the break, the Christmas break, the Lightning have had, 4 back-to-backs, including the one coming out of the break because they played at Florida, home Montreal. 4 back-to-backs. They had traveled to 3 different time zones. 10 of 12 on the road, add in the 2 right after the break. So that was, 11 of 14 on the road. You want to throw in the one last night as well, which was kind of a continuation game. That was another tough game. I mean, 1 regulation loss. We mentioned that. That is extremely difficult to do. And a credit to them that they were able to do it. And they did it with all these injuries, too.
Right.
I mean, not just the players that have been out. I mean, think about it. Who's gone out during this stretch? Braden Point. They lost during this stretch. I mean, they played 1 game without Destu, but, he's been a big part of the team, too.
100%.
So Groshev played last night. I actually want to look up and see what his final minutes were.
Did he play more than 10? I feel
I think they
protected
protected him. Yeah, they protected him. It was that sort of game. I mean, it was, in a way, like he's played 2 games where the opposition's been a road team. The opposition has been the road team. Groshev's 2 games have been both played in Tampa. I'm trying to talk and look up the stats at the same time. And, Montreal kind of took it to the Lightning for much of that game after Christmas, and Utah took it to the Lightning, at least in the first half. So I think that they tried to protect Groshev to some extent. He played 9:57, so you're right, just under 10.
Yeah, it feels right.
So what happened during the warm-ups, I think the idea was to have Carlisle play with Chernak. Carlisle would basically take Destu's spot. And then Groshev would play with Crozier. That lasted about 1 shift. Crozier and Groshev had a tough shift on their first shift together. So after that, we saw Carlisle back with Crozier. And Groshev was playing with Chernak. But when we got into kind of the weeds of the third period, we didn't see a lot of Groshev.
No.
I can actually check the shift chart.
And I get that.
To see. Yeah, I mean, it's playing a second NHL game, and you're facing a team that was just like they were playing at a very, very high level. All right, where is Groshev? Of course, I'm looking, I can't find him. All right, so his last shift.
What did he take? 2 shifts, maybe in the third? More than that?
Well, more than 2. So in the third, he had 4 shifts, and then there was 1 right at the end of the game. I'm not going to include that one after it was 2-0. So he had a shift in the opening minute. He had a shift from like minute 1 to minute 2. And he was about 6 minutes in, and then just shy of the halfway point, he had a 32-second shift. So once we got to the halfway point of the third period, he was basically on the bench, and Coop's trying to win the game, right? So he rotated the 5D for the second half of the third period. But the Lightning at that point had kind of grabbed the game back. So those early shifts for Groshev did coincide with when Utah looked like they were kind of trying to rev the engine again at the beginning of the third period. But, McDonough's unable to return on Thursday, who'd be a lefty. And I don't think we're going to see Lilleberg or Hedman based on, what we're hearing. It sounds like McDonough's going to be the first guy back. Maybe Groshev gets a game against Winnipeg, too. Lundmark was the extra defenseman last night.
At Bolts Radio, if you want to get involved in the conversation, you certainly can do that. Chris says Vasi was brilliant. Bolts are ridiculous good. A shutout against a really good surging team. No Mac, Hetty, Chucky, Pointer. Next man up. Outstanding. I mean, that's...
Yeah. You said you don't know if Utah is a playoff team. I think if Utah plays like that, apparently how Utah has been playing for the better part of a month, they will get in the playoffs. They will.
It's fair. And think about it. They're doing this without Logan Cooley, another offensive weapon that they probably could use for sure. But
you know who's been a very good player for them, clearly? And I saw it last night, but it looks like, he's basically their top D pair defensively.
Nate Schmidt. I know
he's like the 6th defenseman in Florida. They brought him in.
I feel like everywhere Nate Schmidt is gone.
Yeah. I mean, he's had more of a prominent role with some teams and less of a prominent role with other teams.
I think that's a good way to put
Marino
it.
make a good pair.
I think you hit the nail on the head because there have been teams where Nate Schmidt has been in the bottom pair.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Washington when he started.
He was out in Vegas too. I mean, he's been around.
He's been you know what he can do? He can skate.
Yeah.
He's a good skater. And I think he's been in some high impactful, high stressful games. I mean, again, starting with Washington. And then he was in Vegas. I mean, these are all teams who've had success in the postseason. So I think that's a fair observation.
And I'll tell you what, their top line, that's a legit. Gunther isn't even on their top line. He was playing on what was their third line.
Yeah.
So Schmaltz impressed me. Keller impressed me. That was the best game I've seen Barrett Hayton play since he's been in the NHL. I mean, I haven't seen him play a lot, but he was very impressive to me. And I loved Gunther.
Good player.
This guy is
really good player.
He's going to be a top player in this.
And they got Sergachev on the back end.
Got Sergachev on the back
playing
end.
a lot of minutes.
Yep.
You know, slash Kucherov last night. Got him on the finger. I'm sure they had a little joke about that.
I don't think he meant to do that.
A lot of people chiming in. Thaw. Here's the 2,000 more.
Thank you.
Blab says, cheers to Mish for 2,000 games. Best radio play-by-play in the business. Yes, yes, yes. We appreciate all of those kind words. I know Mish does as well. What does Jay say? I'm hearing from Islanders fans on how exciting it is watching the Bolts play. It says a lot coming from that fan base. You know, we love the Islanders fans. Islanders fans get feisty.
Islander fans do get feisty. Islander fans are feeling good. Carson Soucy just got... How many times do the Rangers and the Islanders make a trade? I'm sure it's happened. That's Phil, because Phil was GM of the Rangers for a while. I know there have been some players who have played for both the Rangers and Islanders, but not many. And I don't know if there have been many trades between those teams.
I feel like I saw the last one was like 2012.
All right. So, I
Between
mean,
those two
that's
franchises.
more
I
recent
could
than
be
I would
wrong.
have thought.
But it doesn't to your point, though, it doesn't happen often.
Yeah, that would have been a year where the Islanders traded to the Rangers because
So-
the Rangers, I think, were winning the President's Trophy that year. Or they were definitely a top team, and the Islanders weren't.
I have a colleague, a friend who's a big Rangers fan, and he was like, I don't know what they're doing. Just rip the Band-Aid off. Just start trading some of these
Well, they won in
guys.
overtime last night.
Yeah. I said Shesterkin and Fox, for me, would be the two guys I'd keep. And then if you want to have some conversations. I said, I think when Panarin goes, then you really might start to see some other guys go. I think that's the big one they probably want to unload because they've been very open about it now. They have no intention of signing him.
Right.
And Panarin, look, he can help you. He's still a really good offensive player.
Yeah.
But who has the cap space? You have to eat some of that, right?
Right.
I mean, you're going to have to. So,
But he's on an expiring deal, isn't he?
he is on expiring deal.
Yeah. So it's not a huge ask
It would not be.
for the Rangers to absorb 50%. Is
Correct.
what I'm saying.
That part is correct. Alan says Vasi was unbelievable last night. 2-0 shutout win. Not a bad game for your 2000th one. Hey, Dave?
Yeah, that was a very
That was pretty
entertaining,
cool.
exciting game. No doubt. You don't always get them, but
No, you don't.
again, we were, I think, across the board in our booth, we were very impressed with Utah. That was a better team than the one that the Lightning saw in Utah at the beginning of the season.
Heck yes. That is a good team. That's a team that would give you some problems and make you a little uncomfortable in the playoffs. And the goaltender, where did the goaltender come from?
We're seeing a snapshot in time. Like, it's one game, right? But it's clear that they are doing a lot of good things based on their record and based on their metrics, which we ran down yesterday.
And how good is their goaltender? I guess that's the question. I mean, 25 wins is 25 wins. You don't get that by accident.
Nope.
Come on. Great win last night and surprisingly chippy between the teams that don't see each other often. The refs also did not have a great night, in my opinion. Also enjoy the video they put together for Dave. Well deserved.
So I remember there was some chippiness in the first meeting. I don't remember specifically how it was chippy, but I remember it was a bit chippy. You see that sometimes. But you notice, like, Sergachev got upset with Gergens at the end of the game, not a former teammate. So sometimes you see the former teammates go at one another, but it's usually
It is rare.
not that case.
It is rare.
Not the case. Yeah.
I couldn't imagine like Sergachev going after a Cirelli
Right.
or a Hagel to a lesser extent. I don't know how you felt about it. I wasn't a huge fan of the Nick Paul, Ian Cole fight.
Mm-hmm.
The
Lightning got very lucky there. They could have easily not had a power play.
I mean, I felt like it was a hard check, right?
Yeah.
By Cole. It was on James.
Right.
And
I think the problem was, I don't know if they called holding.
Was it a little extra shove there?
He tackled
going
him
down?
Yeah,
Okay.
like just finish your check. You don't need to like wrestle him to the ice.
But Cole, that's
did that
kinda what Cole does.
necessitate? Did that necessitate Nick Paul coming in and fight? Like James was fine, right?
Yeah, right.
So you run the risk of the instigation, 5-minute major, and a 10-minute misconduct. They could have lost Nick Paul for 17 minutes.
Yeah, and this is really the delicate balance of when to stick up for a teammate. I just didn't think in that moment you needed to answer the call there with Ian Cole in a game like that.
And you could make the argument, which is I think your point, that maybe it wasn't even a penalty. I mean, Cole. We've seen Cole finish checks like that,
yes.
And we've seen other players finish checks like that.
Now, I think
sometimes that is a penalty, though.
Yeah, for sure. I do think Declan Carlisle's little run in, right? He was trying to protect Vasi. I think that was.
He got the extra 2 because he popped the guy in the face, and Dursey was not happy. Did you see the clip afterward of Dursey screaming at Carlisle?
He was saying some nice words to him, wasn't he?
Yes. But, I mean, cooler minds prevailed, and Dursey's team did get a power play out of it.
But I also think in that instance, Carlisle was trying to protect his goaltender.
Yeah. So it's hard for us to know if there was no whistle.
Right.
Dursey has every right to jab away. But I think our point was, if there was no whistle, why was there no whistle? Vasilevskiy has that puck underneath his glove, like not his glove, his blocker hand. So if there was a whistle and Dursey is still doing this, Carlisle, totally understandable that it would react that way. If there's no whistle, Carlisle is just like, I don't like you doing that.
Yeah, right.
But Dursey has a right to do it, and that's on the officials. So the fan was like, the refs didn't have a good game. That was a weird one because we didn't know like the situation. Like, was Dursey, which side of the line was Dursey on? Like, was there a whistle or was there not a whistle? They missed the one on Carconi, right? They missed the one on Paul, which, I mean, I'll be honest, Greg, like 19 times out of 20, the Lightning are not getting a power play out of that.
Sure. That's fair.
Maybe more than that.
Yeah.
49 times out of 50, they're not getting a power play out of that. So it was a little bit of a weird game for the officials. I didn't actually see the Krause penalty, but I have a feeling that he had to do a lot because they let something go on Carconi.
Sure.
And again, you can't put your team in that position.
I think he swapped back and hit.
Yeah.
It was Radish.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. I was trying to watch that play develop, and it felt like that's kind of what happened. Carl said 2.07 goals against. Is Vasi leading for a Jennings Trophy? Definite Vezina convo with all the talk of Tampa Bay Lightning's depth, defense, etc., contributing to success. Seems like the goaltending hasn't gotten the same attention.
Well, because the Lightning don't have many games where they're giving up like 40 shots and Vasi's making 39 saves. That's where you really notice the goaltending, like steal, solid, steal. I mean, that's probably not the way you want things to go. But I mean, the Lightning in a lot of games are holding teams to like less than 25 shots. Now, even in those 25 shots, there are going to be some scoring chances. So the goaltending has contributed in the winning ways, by denying chances. But I think it has been part of this defensive storyline, not the main part of the defensive storyline. It has contributed. But let's give credit to, I mean, last night was a little bit of an exception, and of course the Columbus game was definitely an exception. But in a lot of these games, the goaltenders, they're going long stretches without seeing much. And according to Vasi, he's not crazy about that.
He likes to see some rubber.
He likes to see some rubber.
Tonight, enjoy some Refrum, smooth, versatile, now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Refrum is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Refrum by name. Go Bolts and enjoy responsibly. Lucas says, love Cooch getting 2 points, but no idea how Hagel didn't get the goal at the end of the game. that puck had to be Marty St. Louis Cup Finals versus Calgary over the line before Hagel touched it, I guess.
Well, there was no doubt about Marty scoring in double overtime. It wasn't like it dribbled over the line. I'm not quite sure what Lucas meant there. By the way, that to me, and I've called a lot of iconic goals. I've just been fortunate to be in a position to call it. That to me is still the biggest goal in Lightning history. As big as some of the goals that happened during the other 2 cup runs. If Calgary scores the next goal, there's no 2004 championship.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, and if you weren't there, you just have no idea what Calgary was like. Like they were so ready to celebrate that cup coming to Canada. I mean, Canada's not had a cup since 1993. So this is only 11 years later. But even then, it was like, I can't believe Canada hasn't had the cup for 11 years, right?
Right.
And it was kind of like U.S. versus Canada. I'm like,
sure.
You do realize like a lot of the Lightning players are actually Canadian, right?
Yeah, right.
But it was billed as that. And when the Flames won Game 5 in Tampa in overtime, I mean, it was just like sea of red. I mean, it was just like, I remember our hotel in Calgary during the day leading up to Game 6, like cars honking on the streets. Like, I mean, it was like a ticker tape parade the whole game, the whole day. And the Lightning went into that building and pulled out a double overtime win at altitude. Incredible.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Marty, I remember talking to him years later. I was actually during COVID. I think we did a Zoom thing for the 04 players. Or maybe I just did an interview with Marty. I remember doing an interview with Marty. And I was like, this goal, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you do realize that was my first shot on net in the entire game. My only shot on net.
That's incredible. Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I said, I did not realize that. But he played on a line with Brad Richards. Brad Richards had the other 2 goals. So he was
part of it, right?
He was involved, yes.
Yes, right. An important goal. I think Stamkos' goal against Dallas has to be
iconic.
Yes. For sure. Iconic. Most important? Probably not.
Yeah. When I say the biggest.
The biggest, yeah.
And I mean, that set the path. I mean, yes, the Lightning had some years out in the desert after that where they, were really bad and they ended up drafting Stamkos and Hedman. But for a lot of Lightning fans, that 2004 championship is kind of the starting marker in a way of like, okay, we have a championship team.
We're here.
Yeah, that banner is up.
Yeah.
Right.
This one is Logan. Vasi had one of those games where he could be blindfolded and still get it. Also, I felt like Cooch had a few off games the last 3 games. Lost to mishandles.
Yeah, that can happen. Kucherov plays, I mean, let's be honest, he plays a higher risk game. He plays a more difficult game, but he can usually handle it. But when things are a little bit off, that's when, the puck's bouncing off his stick or a guy does a poke check and he can't quite get around him. I will say, he had a nice finish on the shootout in Chicago. He had a nice finish in Columbus on his goal.
Sure.
So, I mean, he made some plays. I mean, we're saying this. He did have 4 points against Columbus.
The bar is high with that man.
The bar is high, but I understand what the fan is saying.
Well, you can tell. Just look at Kucherov's body language, too.
Yeah.
He gets upset when the puck's bouncing off his stick. But I think players like him that are so talented, they're going to try riskier plays. They're just going to try things no other player is going to try. And they expect it to work. It's just kind of
he's like those people that can do all the stuff with the yo-yo, which I can never do. Like I try the yo-yo and it just goes down and starts spinning at the bottom. It doesn't even come up, right? Maybe I get it up once. Kucherov's like, whirling it around and like doing tricks with the yo-yo, and it's like that's difficult.
That is difficult.
Sometimes the yo-yo doesn't quite do what you want it to do, but usually it does. That's Kucherov's magical touch, right?
What do they?
And he's practiced it, right? But
what do they say with McKinnon? He's just bull in a china shop, right? Is that the best way to describe him? I mean, he's just so.
Yeah. Well, if you're Colorado, you love breaking the china. Yes, I mean,
love breaking the china.
Yeah.
McDavid's
it's
so
the
fast.
other team's china.
That's true.
That he's breaking.
McDavid is just crazy fast with or without the puck, and it's is Kucherov just kind of in a league of his own a little bit?
Kucherov's like the wizard, you know? He's kind of like the mage.
Right.
With his
all three unique.
His spell book, right?
They're all very unique, but they're all very
deception.
Effective. Yeah.
Craftiness.
There's a lot of that with him.
Yeah.
And that is super interesting when you compare them. Paul says, congrats on 2K. Had to listen to the first 2 periods instead of watch. Dave, you're great, of course, but I forgot how much fun it is to listen to Espo. He's a treasure. Go Bolts. He is.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Phil. For, if fans don't listen to the broadcast a lot, I get it. If you have a chance to watch the game, you're going to watch the game. I understand it. We usually pick up people who are between screens, whether they're driving or maybe they work. I mean, people can tell us if they listen, when they listen, why they listen. But I don't have, radio tinted glass. I mean, I understand if people have a chance to watch the game, we're going to watch the game. Here's the thing about Phil. If you actually listen to a game, and you're not just like catching the highlights or whatever, where you actually hear Phil during the game, Phil is probably the most uncensored analyst out there. Now, other analysts will tell the truth. Phil will basically tell you exactly what's on his mind, no matter the situation. Now, yes, he will clean up his language maybe a little bit. He is aware that he is like talking into a microphone. But the beauty of Phil is that you will get an opinion that is raw and from the heart.
Yeah.
We both, and I don't know if this happened from game 1 that we did together, but if it didn't happen in game 1, it happened very early on. We both like to call a game. I'm doing the play-by-play, he's doing the analysis, but we both like to call a game based on what we are seeing in that moment. We are less concerned about storylines or, package stories or background information on certain players. We are reacting to what is happening in that moment, and that is the way I like to call a game, even when I'm by myself. But that is really Phil's forte. Like, he is going to be able to see and get a sense of the temperature in the pool. We can feel, both of us, I think, when games shift and when things are going poorly, like in the Lightning's face, he gets animated about it.
You can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell.
But he also gets animated when things go well, and he's very complimentary.
Yeah.
So not every analyst is like that. And I think it's safe to say there isn't one analyst out there that is like Phil.
No. He's unique.
So he is very unique. Yeah.
He also has a good eye.
Very good eye.
He can kind of tell when guys tip things or just from his playing. Mytho says, kind of rough game from our D and offense. Lots of plain missed net shots, several wide open, but also Vasi was standing on his head. I'm hoping we clean up our game for sure. Lots of turnovers, too.
So, Mythos, I do think the third period was a pretty good period for the Lightning. Understanding the way Utah had played for much of the first 2 and at least the first half. And I'm willing to, what are we expecting from this team? We just talked about the schedule stretch they had. They kind of had to cobble together some games where mentally, physically, emotionally, by emotionally I just mean like the grind of game after game after game after game and like getting up, to play at a certain level that is required. Very, very difficult. So I am willing to excuse the fact that, there's been a little leakness in their game, let's say in the last 3. Even the Chicago game, they had the puck a lot, but when they didn't, the Hawks had some looks. They got through it.
Yeah.
Now the schedule is going to flip. They get 2 days off before the next game. They get 2 days off before the outdoor game. They get 2 more games, and they get a 3-week break. I understand some of the players are going to the Olympics, but those players are going to be joined by other NHL players. It's going to be a reset until we come back at the end of February. So let's see how they finish out here in these last 4 home games before the break. Talking about
not every game is going to be your best.
No,
82 games.
And you made the point, Greg, at the beginning of the show. Like, let's give Utah some credit.
I think you have to.
A less polished team in terms of execution wouldn't have looked as dangerous last night. I think that was your point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Tactics says, in fairness about being off, we weren't getting any bounces. The puck hated us last night. That can happen. The other team maybe making that work.
I didn't think that happened as much last night, in fairness. I mean, the Cirelli goal, the puck bounced off Vasilevskiy and rolled in.
Yeah.
Maybe you would say it was the last minute of the game. They would have won anyway. Who knows? But
Chris says Utah was clearly frustrated at the end of the game, hoping they take it out on the Panthers tonight.
Well, they hadn't tasted a regulation loss since the beginning of January.
Right.
So you get used to not having that feeling, and they played well enough to get a point at least last night. So, yeah. So the question now, okay, you had this long point streak. It ended. What are you going to do in the next game?
What are you going to do?
Yeah. That's the question for Utah.
I would agree with you 100% on that.
I'm curious if the Panthers had any travel issues coming out because they finished in Chicago on Sunday. I think it was Sunday. Yeah, it was Sunday. I mean, I'm presuming they got home, but this is going to be 3 and 4 for them because they played a back-to-back Minnesota-Chicago over the weekend.
Yeah. Question from Michelle. Congratulations, Mish. Love the tribute video on the Jumbotron. How do I know? I listen to you guys a lot. My 11-year-old was at the game with me last night, and to Greg's point, he said, Mom, it looks like Cooch has fumbleitis. He's picking up the Mishkinisms.
Yeah, I do say fumbleitis. I don't think I coined that word, but
I don't know.
Cooch does not often have fumbleitis. I will say that, but
no. Let's see. This one comes from Michael. What makes a great face-off player? Is it natural talent, learned techniques, or just the player's hard work and desire to be good at it? So
that is probably a better question for Jeff Halpern, honestly, or somebody who could have on.
There's got to be a combination of all three.
Yeah, I would say that too.
However, I do think there's technique in this more than we think.
Well,
Would you agree?
Techniques is in there. I think all of it.
I mean, more than the other two. Like talent, look, a lot of talented players who are centermen that may not be great. I mean, look, do you think Braden Point's an extremely talented player? Heck yes. Do you think Braden Point's one of the best face-off men in the league at this point in his career? No. There's some technique, more technique than we think in terms of winning face-offs.
There's no one easy answer, except I will say, and this is true, it's a truth. It is easier to win a strong side face-off than a weak side face-off. So accepting that, and most teams have enough of a mix that they're not really putting guys out on weak side face-offs, although I will say Cirelli last night chose the weak side to put Stenlund on his weak side on some of those power play face-offs. So they felt it was better to have both guys on their weak side, and Utah, for some reason, did not send out a lefty. They kept sending out Stenlund, who's very, very good, but he's a righty. So the Lightning at the beginning of the power play could choose the circle, and a couple times they picked the circle where both guys were on their weak side. So both guys would have a harder time. They felt that was more advantageous. Anyway, so there's a little bit of cat and mouse here. Talent matters. Technique matters. Desire to be better matters. I'll give you two examples of the third. One is Sidney Crosby. Crosby, when he came into the league, now he was 18, right? So, I mean, he's learning. But I think if you look back at his rookie year faceoff percentage, it was not great. And the story is, and I don't know when he committed himself to, like, I want to be better on faceoffs. But at some point he did it, and it was early in his career. And, you know, is he up with Giroux? No. But is he regularly a guy who's in that 54, 55%? He takes a ton of faceoffs? Yes. Desire to be better. The other guy, and I know this because we talked to him about it, and Jeff Blashill mentioned it too because he had him in the minors, was Glendening. Glendening was not a great faceoff guy when he got to the pro game. He's like, I need to develop. I mean, it was almost like a survival thing.
Sure.
I need to develop a skill. He has become one of the best in that specialized, you know, strong side faceoff right of the goalie, defensive zone, penalty killing, 5-on-6. Like, he was an asset for the Lightning the last 2 years based on what he could do at that particular faceoff circle. That is the third category, desire to get better. But that's not to say that some players just don't want to get better. I mean, I think you can have a desire to get better, and sometimes it just doesn't happen. That's why it's a little out of my element because I've never, had to take face-offs, so I don't know.
Also, help from your line mates.
50-50s help.
Those always help.
The best guys are usually the best guys. So the 50-50s help on the margins, but if it was majority 50-50s, then we'd see way more fluctuation. You wouldn't see the top guys continue to be the top guys.
Sure.
Because you're more reliant on who's out there with you, right?
Yeah. Michelle, going back to the Islanders-Rangers conversation you and I had, I heard it on the radio this morning. They have only made 4 trades total, 2 in 72, 1 in 2010, and this one. Okay. So
maybe it was 2010.
Yeah,
you said 2012.
Yeah, I was referencing, yeah.
Yeah. 1972. That was like the first year of the Islanders. They didn't know that they hated each other, maybe at that point. Aaron Asham is one guy. I think Aaron Asham played for all 3 New York teams.
I think he played for every team in the Metro.
Okay.
He played
there
for
you
Flyers.
Go. Thank you, Greg.
He played for the Penguins. He played for the Rangers. He played for the Islanders.
Caps?
Who else?
Did he play for the Caps?
I think he played for the Caps.
I mean, you're talking about 8 teams.
Yeah, I
now.
think who were the other 3?
I mean, the old Patrick division probably wasn't the Patrick division when Aaron Asham was playing, but I did know that he played for all 3 New York teams. There have been a bunch of players who have played for 2, like Andy Green played for Devils and Islanders. I think you see more of that. You see more like Kyle Palmieri played for Devils and Islanders. Of course, Lou Lamoriello is with the Devils and with the Islanders, so that also helps explain that. Devils, Islanders, Rangers, though, very rare. And Islanders, Rangers, extremely rare.
So here's who. Well, I was close. Played for the Canadians, the Islanders. This is Aaron Asham.
Yeah.
Canadians, Islanders, Devils, Flyers, Penguins, Rangers.
Okay. He covered the Northeast there.
A lot of teams.
Yeah.
Tough. That guy was tough. He could fight. Bucks in Bolts says, Mish, what do you think the Bolts are going to do at the trade deadline? I know Chernik has a no-trade clause, but he has spent a lot of games on IR. Radish needs to get paid.
Well, Radish will get paid.
Yeah.
I am not convinced Julian is going to wait to the offseason. I think Julian told us at the Fireside Chat, I'm not ready right now. If they decide that they want Darren Radish to be part of this organization moving forward, don't you think it would make sense for them to start negotiating prior? Once Julian is comfortable putting together what he thinks is going to be, I'll phrase it this way, and I don't mean to say it in a clunky way, an offer that makes sense. It's not that he's trying to squeeze Radish. I think he wants to make an offer that fits where the player is. And what he told us at the midseason point was, we have to still see who this player is. It's too small of a sample size. If Darren Radish continues playing the way that he's playing, we know who the player is. And it very well be that Julian's like, okay, now I know what to make this offer. If Radish tails off, that informs Julian as well about what the offer would be. But he said flat out, we want Darren Radish to stay with the Lightning. So Radish will get paid.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Lightning are going to do at the deadline.
They're going to do something.
You've been pretty consistent with that.
Yeah, they're going to do something. And I would get another offensive player. Just would.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean the guys they have aren't playing well. They're loaded on the back end. Their depth is there. Now, look, do you feel comfortable with Carlisle and Crozier if you had to start a playoff series? I mean, you could sit there and say, look, no, but if you believe in them, now's the time to get the experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're just going to have to bite the bullet and just say, let's go.
And the reality is, unless Julian pulls another rabbit out of his hat, which, I mean, he's done it before, where they don't have any room to make a deal, and they do it. It's going to be harder this year because you can't include a third team. I think what we heard was, if they are going to add salary, that means salary has to go out. And if you're going to add more than the league minimum, you can do the math. I mean, I'm not suggesting you're saying Crozier or Carlisle would be moved, but Crozier and Carlisle, if you move them, you're not creating enough money to bring in a player that you would invest in to acquire at the deadline, right? So unless there's some other way of doing this, pulling the levers in a way that I don't understand.
Sure.
Where the Lightning are against the cap, it's probably going to have to be a dollars in, dollars out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think you're in this specific example. Somebody mentioned Chernak. He's too big of a piece to move right now if that's the route you wanted to go. Moves like that are going to happen in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you want to do the smaller moves to acquire somebody to make it work, it's going to have to be somebody who's not making as much. I don't think, because I think you're going to disrupt the team and the chemistry they have with those
Now,
players.
you could reduce it by 50%. You could.
That's
you know,
true.
You could,
That's a good point.
You could give more to the team that is trading that player for them to keep 50% of the salary.
Fair point.
But you can only do 50%. Like the Gore deal last year, the Lightning only took 25% because they got a third team involved.
What does Thaw say here? It fills the center by trade. Mish on his left, Greg on his right, Jared Johnson on D, and Steve Ersnick between the pipes.
We're leaving Jared as the only defenseman.
Well, we have a plethora of personnel we could.
Steve
we could
is
go with.
Steve. I will say this: Steve is a goalie because he does save things. But Steve is more of a firefighter. Steve has
Puts
to
out
bring the
fires.
water pail,
Yes.
right? Like, oh, this is going wrong. Let's put out this fire. Let's put out that fire.
Chief is our goaltender. How
Chief
about
is
that?
our goalie. Yes,
I like that.
All
That's a
right.
good point by you. All right, we're gonna hold off on more questions. Tomorrow, we are gonna tape.
Tomorrow we are pre-taping. Yes,
Yes.
I found out that I have an event at Benchmark International Arena. We got all the events coming up with the outdoor game, so I'll actually
Man,
be
is that gonna
having
be cold.
lunch at lunchtime, I think.
It is gonna be.
So we'll
cold.
pre-tape, and we were gonna have Dennis Phillips on. I had to move Dennis basically because we're pre-taping tomorrow and he can't do tomorrow. So we are having Dennis on Friday. He's like, the forecast will be locked in. I'm like, okay, you're the meteorologist. Not
it.
locked in. It's going to be very close, but it looks like everyone's going to need to bring an overcoat. If you don't have an overcoat and you're going to
one.
the outdoor game
Get
on
one.
Sunday, get an overcoat.
It's gonna be cold. I gotta wear a hat for my bald head.
Yeah.
It's gonna be freezing. Anyways, all right, that's gonna be a fun interview.
Yes.
Look forward to that, and we'll have some more hockey talk tomorrow. Partner, congratulations again. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you.
Last night, well deserved.
And thanks. Yeah, thanks to the Lightning. I mean,
yeah,
as I've said, I haven't really worked a day in my life, so I've been very lucky in that regard.
Yeah.
But somebody has to agree to tell me, yes, come do your thing here and not work a day in your life, and we'll pay you, right? So,
pretty cool.
going back, Jason Dixon reached out. He was the original, for me, broadcast manager who
Yeah.
I interviewed with. Jay Feaster was the GM. He obviously had an outsized role in influencing the decision because he had hired me and Hershey. I think I've told the Bob Hartley story. He was a huge influence as well. Bill Wickett was above Jason, signed off on it as well. So all the people that were involved in bringing me here back in 2002, thanks again.
it's incredible.
And since,
yeah, keep on keeping on.
yeah.
Break it all down. Partner, great job. As
Thank
always. Thanks to Steve Ersnick, Jared Johnson. Appreciate you guys out there. Hope Jared's back safely. And all you who are listening, appreciate you guys as well. I'm Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch on Lightning Radio.